Welcome back, and on this episode, we're taking this scene from the new Deadpool trailer and turning it into a diorama made of foam. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while, and we're working on this next diorama. So, the scale police in my last few projects said that I made it too small, so I've been toying around with different sizes, and in the end, figured if I'm going to make this, I might as well make it big, and before anyone says it's not to scale to the actual 20th Century Fox statue, I know, but this has to display somewhere in my room, so I think this size is appropriate and will do me just fine. Now, I'm putting this ruler here because this is where I'm going to cut this giant statue in half, and I really don't even have to make the whole thing. I just kind of want to make it just to see what it looks like, so it's going to be a lot of extra work, but if I'm going to make it, I might as well make the whole thing so I get the good full view of the sign. So I'm just tracing out all of those letters and the numbers I printed off as my template, and I'll go ahead and trace this onto some foam. But if you look at one of the previous sizes, that's how big it would have been, and I've opted for the bigger size. So now we're going to trace all of these numbers and letters onto foam, and I'm stacking them 4 inches thick. Why 4 inches? Because that's as tall as my Proxxon wire cutter can handle. So I know it probably would have been actually deeper if it was more realistic, but for the sake of the tools that I have, that's why it's going to be 4 inches. And I made a promise to myself for the last few projects I've worked on, and for the next project, I'm really trying to use up as much scrap as possible to not waste any of the materials that I have before I go out and buy a new sheet of foam. So I'm just tracing everything, and then I'm gluing all of these pieces together until they're all stacked 4 inches tall. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of Elmer's glue and a piece of cardboard to spread it so it's evenly spaced out. Once I have all of my letters and my numbers, then the glue is dried, I'm going to take it through my Proxxon hot wire cutter, and I'm really not great at doing this. There's a lot of waves in it, but that's okay. I'm going to be able to sand a lot of that. So really, these are all just scrap pieces I would have normally thrown out, but luckily, using it like this, I only have to throw out the edges that I'm cutting off with the Proxxon. So you can see how tall this thing's going to be, and it's still missing those middle divider platforms, which I'll just have to cut out some flat pieces of foam. But you can see how I really hacked up some of these letters. So no big deal, just sand it down. You're not gonna be able to notice it once it's sanded and painted. So just want to get out all these rivets so it doesn't look all curvy and wavy. Now, other than the hot wire table, I used some other foam cutting tools. This is my hand wand, and I'm using it to get out the middle of the O's and the 0 and the R. It'll be a little tricky. If you only had a knife, this would not be easy to do at all. So I'm glad I have these tools. This particular tool is like 30 bucks, so if you wanted to do something like this, it wouldn't be too expensive. And now I'm just going to experiment with some colors. I started priming, and now I have to work on those middle sections that you see that are just bare pink foam. And I'm going to slice these up a little bit, make sure that it's kind of layered at different lengths and different thicknesses. So I'll go ahead and do that, get everything else primed, and then start working on some color. Now, I spray painted this a gold color, didn't like it. I'm going to use a gold acrylic paint just to give everything a coat. And then at the end, I'm going to take this cream chalk color and I'm going to dust everything, because this doesn't take place in a desert. It's the void. I guess you can say it's a desert, but it's more like a barren wasteland. But once I use that gold acrylic paint that I will finish everything with, then I can go ahead and dust it. And while making this project, I saw Ryan Reynolds released a Deadpool edition of his aviation gin. I don't really like gin, but I thought it was good timing. I went ahead and picked up a couple bottles. So I started painting this thing all gold, and it took 2 to 3 layers. And honestly, I didn't care the quality of this layer of paint, how it looked, because in the end, we're just gonna dust it with that cream chalk spray paint. I could have probably spray painted this gold, but I didn't want to add too many layers of spray paint. I didn't really want to burn the foam, but I did pretty well not burning it with the spray paint I did use. And now that it's all painted gold, I'm just going to get out my Fox Marvel Legends just to put them near this 20th Century Fox sign just to see what it looks like. And this is why I kind of took the extra minute or two to build out the whole thing because I thought it would be really cool to see this before I start destroying it. So now this project sat on my workbench for about 2 weeks because I didn't want to do this part. I didn't want to destroy it after I did all that work to make it, but I knew I had to do it eventually, so I just ran it through the hot wire Proxxon table and I started cutting out the letters and the numbers that really are not going to be seen in this display. So yeah, even though I did kind of make a bunch, really you're not going to see, pretty much on the Century, you're not going to see the CEN and you're not going to see the F and half the O. Now here's a new tool that I thought I kind of needed to break out for this, and this is my hot wire knife. Something I've wanted for a while. I got it for Christmas, but I haven't used it. And this is going to make easy work of getting close to the angle that I want. So it is going to have to rest a little differently. So I just made like a line mark there of what I'm slicing off. Slice that too. Now it's a few separate pieces and that's okay. Just kind of want to lay this flat and see how it looks so far. And I like it this way. You know, if this was more accurate to the movie, I would kind of leave it like this as like a backdrop. But I'm going to try to still cut it even more so that I get that angle, because I really do want it angled, sticking out of the base of this. So I'm making my line and taking this hot wire knife, which I am really having a lot of fun with. So I hope there's a lot more projects that I can use this with. But I'm still going to try to get that angle, slice this all the way down, and then I'll see how it looks. But I definitely had to mess with this a few times. Luckily, I didn't destroy the piece, especially for what I'm looking to do with it. So everything turned out pretty well, I think. Now, on one hand, very satisfying to use this hot wire knife. It's just such a cool tool. On the other end, really sad that I had to go and destroy this. But now I'm just working on that piece that's at the top of the two because I want this angled in a very particular way. And again, very satisfying tool to use. I wish I didn't mess it up. And if you notice, I have a mask. This is the first time I'm wearing that mask in a while. I finally found a proper mask. But I think I got the angle. I think this is what I want. It looks great on the base. Now we're just going to work on texturing the base and then giving it some more detail. But for the most part, this is kind of exactly what I wanted. I think the T technically would have been more in the dirt, but we'll try to put some other things there to cover it. But just going to texture this piece, use my ball of aluminum foil that I use all the time, and then start cutting some crack lines in, just using my knife, cutting in diagonally into the pattern that I'm making. So I'll make a bunch of these lines throughout the piece, you know, really not making it uniform, random, which is pretty much what I like, especially since I'm a sloppy kind of diorama builder. And then something else that I've done in my last couple projects, I really love doing this, is just taking this wall putty and making that the texture of the rock surface or the earth surface. So I think this works great, and it's really a lot less work for me to do. You know, I don't have to add all these other things. So just take a thing of wall spackle, spread it out with your hand or a putty knife, and I think it works. And when I go to spray paint this, I'm not going to have any problems burning the foam because this is going to create a nice hard layer on this piece of foam, which I think is fantastic. One of the other things I'm going to do is just take some sand and just rub it in. So I'm just going to spread it out, use my putty knife, just make sure there's a good bunch of coverage of sand and texture throughout the whole thing. I had a little bit left, so I just wanted to use it up and get it all over the piece. Now I'm going to take the sign and then start really texturing or messing this thing up even more. So I'm taking my wire brush, just giving it some nice downstrokes, and I'm going to make this random. I did carve some lines horizontally into the big zero because that looks very similar to the film. And I'm just going to start putting in random cracks. So sometimes I'm using the resource from the film or the trailer that I saw. There was a crack in the U, but you know, I'm taking some liberties and I'll add a crack on the R or some other places just to kind of make it my own and just give it some more depth. I'm going to use that chalk spray paint that I talked about, give it that dusting. I think that will make it look really cool. And then I did this with my Wolverine Execution diorama where I just kind of mixed the Mod Podge with either sand or pebbles, and this is going to help me kind of cover up or just show you where the sign has fallen into the ground, and that's kind of the effect I'm going for. So just kind of putting this on there, then not attaching the sign yet. But once these pebbles have dried, I'm going to give it 2 coats. One of that terracotta, just as a darker undertone. And then again, I want it to match the dusting on the sign, so the surface level will get this cream. So that's all dry. Did that. Now I'm just gluing on some random weeds. And I think after that, I have a few more steps, and it's almost done. So I'll just glue these weeds into place. I had a bunch of these left over from the X Mansion that I did. And at this point, I can start gluing the sign on. And now I just want to give a little bit of rust to the sign, just one extra detail. And this is just going to act more as like an oxidation to, the rusting of the sign, this big metal golden sign that's been out in the elements. So not going to go crazy with this, just put it in a few different places. Credit to whoever posted these photos of the Wolverine Marvel Legends from the new movie coming out, which makes me even more excited that I've worked on this project. So hopefully we'll get those figures soon. In the meantime, I think this project is done. And here it is, guys. This is my Deadpool and Wolverine diorama based off some few images from the trailer. So really hoping that we get some better close-ups of this. But this is pretty much, I'll call it the Deadpool destroys the Fox universe diorama. Really don't know what to call it yet. I don't know what context the scene has. It looks like Wolverine is kicking Deadpool's ass in the trailer. So I'm just really excited to see like what importance this actual scene has. So I have no idea. But this was a fun one to work on. Crazy idea. It really can't. It could fit a lot of characters, but I mean, what other display options are you going to have except for putting these very specific characters on it? But I am super excited to get a new Deadpool figure. I think the newer one will have kind of like a brighter red, more closer to the comics, I'd say. And then we are getting that movie Wolverine where he's finally wearing the yellow and blue suit. So again, I showed the pictures before. If you know who took those photos, please give them credit. If I knew who did, I'd make sure I give them credit. But I'm just happy to see those out in the ether and knowing that we're getting those soon. So you can see how big this thing is. It's pretty big, and that's just the 6-inch figure inside the hole of the Zero. So, I mean, this thing does have some scale. Probably not the correct scale, but I'd say it's pretty sizable. And this is perfect for what I need. I really just want this diorama to take a few photographs when those new figures come out. So, I don't even know how many characters from the movie we'll get, but as long as I get a new Deadpool and a new Wolverine, I think I'll be pretty happy. So I'm just really excited to get those 2 new figures, at least a new Deadpool and Wolverine. Hopefully we'll get some other figures from the movie. But I think as mutant fans, we've been really eating good, especially with X-Men 97. But I have not been excited for an MCU movie since Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Everything else in between has been kind of not so great. But I think this one should revive everyone's faith in the MCU. So, hope you all enjoyed this build and that you all have your tickets already and you are going out to see the new Deadpool movie. I know I am very excited. But if you could hit like and subscribe, I truly appreciate it. And until the next episode, folks, we'll catch you next time.